I'm John Law, this is Chasing Cars, and BYD's on a product offensive with 6 new launches, but this is the one I'm most excited about. May look like the Seagull or the Dolphin Surf, but here in Australia it's actually going to be called the Atto 1, and it's going to be the cheapest electric car you can buy here, new when it goes on sale. Not only will it be the cheapest electric car though, this thing is going to undercut hybrid rivals of the same size, like the Toyota Yaris and even the petrol-only Mazda 2. We reckon it's going to start at 25 grand. There'll be 2 trims, the Essential, which is the base model, the price leader, and the Premium that we're here having an early test of today. Now this isn't a production example for the Australian market. Pre-production, that means we're only allowed to drive it here at Lang Lang, old proving ground of Holden and GM, and we'll get to that in a minute because I think this car might perform quite well out there on the rough road. Firstly, I'm going to talk you through a little bit of design because I think this car looks really striking in this sprout green color. There's one of 4 that you can get on this car. Looks sharp, really lovely crisp headlights, and the proportions are a little bit dorky, a little bit Mercedes-Benz A-Class, 4 meters long or just about, quite tall and quite narrow, but I actually think it looks kind of spunky like a city car, and if you get it in this color, it's definitely going to stand out. And it's not like you get skimped on either. 16-inch alloy wheels are standard, as are LED headlights, and as we'll get to now, the cabin is really well featured. Chasing Cars, honest reviews of your next car. Brought to you by Budget Direct. We've been used to some pretty luxe looking interiors on this BYD product launch, so stepping into the Atto 1 as it's known in Australia, well, it certainly feels pretty cheap. Hard scratchy plastics on the door tops, the dashboard, and nothing particularly soft. The screen looks small in comparison to the other vehicles here, but we've got to take ourselves out of that because this thing is amazing for a little city car. Remember, 25 grand or thereabouts. So this screen is actually massive. It's also pretty responsive, certainly more so than things you get in a Mazda 2 and a Toyota Yaris and an MG3 and a Suzuki Swift. It feels a whole lot more tech forward than those cars. There's some lovely details too that really set this car apart. Physical scroller for the volume knob, and it feels really nice. Little knurling. You've got physical controls for a bunch of air con settings as well, including temperature, fan speed on and off, and the front demister, hazard lights right in the middle, drive mode, and the slippery drive modes too. It's also where you find the gear selector, which is another interesting little quirk which helps to free up space down here. Now you don't get any covered storage under an armrest, but you do get 2 rather generous cup holders, this really neat wireless charging pad, and this mezzanine level down here within easy reach of the USB-C, USB-A and 12-volt socket. This car feels borderline European in its design ethos. It has everything you need and a place for everything. Even the door bins quite easily swallow a 600 milliliter bottle. It's big car engineering in a tiny little vehicle, and we love to see that. Now, not all's perfect. These seats, for example, are quite short in under-thigh support, and although they look good and sporty, they don't actually adjust enough. There's only 6-way power adjust, so there's no under-thigh tilt. But again, you get power adjust at this price. That's pretty impressive. And I think if we jump through the screen, we might also find that, yep, 2-stage heated seats for both of the front occupants. That is really pretty awesome for this car. While we're here, I'll run over the specs as well. You get a 43 kilowatt hour battery, which gives you about 310 kilometers of WLTP range. BYD will tell you you'll get up to 507 Ks in the urban cycle, but I think realistically we can expect about 300 to 350 depending on driving scenarios. But I'm very excited to test that out. For now, we're going to jump into the back seat and see how spacious this sub-4-metre long hatchback is. The Atto 1 is by no means a big car, and I am quite a tall man. But as you can see, I fit back here with great comfort. Look at the knee room I have. There's still a little bit there behind my driving position. Really good tow room, seriously impressive for an electric car, especially a little one with the vertically stacked BYD Blade battery and reasonable headroom. Look, it's a little bit dark back here. The windows are pretty small for backseat passengers, and I do feel a little bit claustrophobic. Plus, there's no middle seat here, so it's only a 4-seater. But I think that was probably a good move because the width across the bench means it's really quite comfortable here. I've got access to a little cubby pocket back there, and for short journeys, I think I'd be more than happy. That's seriously impressive, and thanks to this Atto 1 having a 2.5 metre wheelbase smashed into just a sub-4-metre shell. Then we come round to the back of this car where we can see the bespoke Australian Atto 1 badging. Of course, we've ditched Build Your Dreams just for BYD because this car company is actually known in China as BYD rather than BYD. It's a reference to the street on which it was founded. Just a little interesting fact. Now, speaking of design, spoke about it at the front, really crisp back here. Look at this big roof spoiler. It looks really sharp and interesting and quite dynamic. There is a slight awkwardness to the proportions though, especially when it comes to the back door, which looks unbelievably long. But anyway, I think on the whole, it looks pretty different, pretty interesting, pretty cool. Manual tailgate, of course, 25 grand, little electric urban runabout. What more would you expect? And actually, there's stuff in the back here, floor mats and things, but this boot's pretty massive for this class, 308 litres. It's not that long, but crucially, it's quite deep, not unlike my own little Renault Clio, which is a remarkably practical little car. The seats also fold flat in a 50-50 configuration. There is quite a lip, but again, it's a small urban runabout, so you can't expect that much from a little vehicle like this. Right, so in the Atto 1, BYD's smallest and cheapest car that is going to sell in Australia, we're going to take it out on Lang Lang's rather well-known and rather feared ride and handling track. Now, it's a bit of an urban car, so might all be a little bit too much for this car, though the suspension, struts up front and torsion beam out the back with regular passive dampers has been tuned by the guy who did the Mercedes-Benz S-Class. Power is 115 kilowatts, 220 newton meters, and 9.1 to 100, which we're going to test now. Flat out, 100 there already. Oh no, hang on, kilowatts. Jump the gun, there we go, 100. Now, we're on a simulated Australian country road right now, and unlike the Seagull I drove in China, immediately this car has more body control. Tipping it into a tricky off-camber left-hander, and you can feel the light weight of this car, really helping it round. Steering weight has increased a lot for this Australian delivered car as well. It feels really confident through these corners. And actually, we're getting along at a pretty decent speed, given this car's rather paltry power outputs. Although 115 kilowatts in something this size is not to be sniffed at. What I am noticing is rather a lot of road noise or wind noise coming from the front end of this car. We're doing 120 k's an hour now, so a little bit faster than what you'd expect to do on the Australian public road. But yeah, I can definitely hear a slightly strange harmonic. What do we think? Ride quality, bump absorption are both pretty decent. And I'm actually tracing these corners with real confidence. I'm genuinely impressed. I guess this is what a reasonably long wheelbase with a short body and well set up dampers and nicely calibrated steering can do to a car when it doesn't weigh so much, especially when you've got that battery set down low. So yeah, it's all boding pretty well. Other control weights, throttle feels pretty nicely mapped. Oh, we're going over the big bumps here. I've got to slow down and see how it handles these things. The big yumps at Lang Lang. Wow. I'm quite deeply impressed by this car. We were impressed in China by the China market one, which was really soft. But unlike the Atto 2 that's coming here to Australia, this car has an extra level of ride firmness. Really quite impressive. What else can we talk about? Safety is important to note as well, because this car's been complied 5 stars with Euro NCAP, and BYD's on a bit of a march when it comes to things like safety technologies and connected services for across the range. So even at 25 grand, you get the full connected services that BYD packs into this little EV, and you also get safety systems, lane keep assist, autonomous driving up to a level 2 with adaptive cruise control and lane keep assist, and as I said, that fantastic little chassis, which is remarkably pliable and really quite a lot of fun. Again, I'll mention the tyres, and it's something that BYD learned quite early on after putting Atlas Batman A51 tyres onto its Atto 3. This car now has pretty decent quality Hankook Ion EV tyres. They're only 185 millimeters wide, which is actually pretty adequate for a little car like this, and they seem to hold on rather well. Other things like regenerative braking are typically a little soft for BYD. You don't get a full one-pedal drive mode, but I think that'll suit someone who's transitioning to an electric car really quite well. If you're an EV convert already, you may miss that electric typical one pedal braking setup, but the brake pedal in this car is fairly supportive, fairly nice, fairly easy to use, and it just feels quite user-friendly. I'll point out as well actually this digital dashboard here, which is quite sort of Casio 80s in its graphic interface. Though that said, even though it's a little small, it does pack everything you need: average kilowatt hours per 100 Ks, speed, kilowatts deployed, all those sorts of things. And for a cheap car, that's probably all you need. This is the most exciting of the new BYD products coming to Australia for us here at Chasing Cars, because it really does change the game. A predicted $25,000 starting price for an electric car with a reasonable 310 kilometres of WLTP range that acquits itself on a simulated Australian country road like that, I think is a really intriguing proposition. Of course, we'll have to wait for this car to arrive properly in Australia, take it on the real roads, and especially drive it in the city where this car is going to spend the majority, if not all, of its time. But initial signs are impressive. That it's going to be cheaper than a Mazda 2, a Toyota Yaris, and even compete with a Suzuki Swift on absolute price is seriously wild to me. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below, because I think this well-packaged, reasonably good to drive, and potentially quite efficient electric car could really be a game changer. Thank you so much for watching Chasing Cars. Hit subscribe if you haven't done so already, and we'll see you on the next one.